that, they'd
Exactly.
raise their prices.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, Jason, I've been a fan of I still use the Garmin handhelds. We do a lot of hiking
Oh, they're
and
the
whatnot.
best.
Yeah, especially up here where cell phone service doesn't get so great in the woods.
Oh yeah.
So having the inReach system, so that peace of mind, something happens, you can still pop a text off or hit emergency services through the satellites.
Yeah, I mean, I've got their scale, I've got their RV nav system, I've got the heart rate monitors, I got their bike on my bike light and the computer, and for cycling, and I got a ton of Garmin stuff, the watches.
Well, here we go. We're going to turn today's show into a Garmin commercial.
And there we go.
By the way, I walked past your booth, I think twice during NADA. Didn't see you, but just going to wave hello.
Yeah, I was in and out. I was, taking advantage of things like this. I think there was like 3 or 4 opportunities to go on some podcasts and stuff. So I did that. So I was in and out, and of course, trying to network with other other companies that we partner with and stuff, just to make sure everything's tight there.
Yeah, that's mostly what I was there for too.
We had a good show though. First time I did the 20 by 20, it was a little nerve wracking because it's not cheap, but we've already been able to cover what we spent, so we're good.
Nice. Yeah, it looked like you had some good activity going on when I was walking by.
Yeah, I think we had it's an 8 or 9 store group that gave us a 12-month agreement. So, like I said, once we signed that up, it's like, all right, we're done.
That made it all worth it.
Yeah, so we're like, all right. Now we signed other stores too, but once we got that one, it's like, all right, we did pay for ourselves, so the rest from here on out would just be added bonus.
Nice. Well, 10 seconds, fellas, to get to play Jeff's favorite sound.
Yes. Can't wait.
And there it was. So, hey, everybody.
Man, I didn't even know it was Friday. I woke up this morning totally thinking it was Thursday.
I was going to be wearing my Chiefs stuff. Should be Red Friday for the Super Bowl. But I had 2 demos in this interview, so I'm like, I'll just wear my work stuff.
I don't think anyone would have faulted you.
No. Or at least my hat or something, my Chiefs hat.
There you go.
I never got my LotPop bracelets.
You never did?
No, that's from like 3 or 4 years ago when you first when you first brought them out.
Well, then we'll send you some. We got some. We didn't have any for a while. Everybody didn't worry about selling cars in the first 30 days. They're making money on 100-day-old cars.
True.
Now they're getting popular again, so I got to go order some more.
Yeah, what's days on lot time looking like for you?
Well, the new cars is up and used is down. Or actually, there is less used cars in the market right now than this time last year. Now, what's funny is last year there was just as many as the previous year. People were talking all this car shortage, and there really wasn't one other than new cars. But new cars are stacking. And, it's funny with these used cars. I don't know if it has to do with the lack of production so much over the last couple of years, because if you really look at it, we sold 13, 15 million new cars still. I mean, yeah, it's down from 16, 17 million, but it's still 2011, 2012 type numbers. So,
still strong.
Yeah. And so I think some of it, 2 things that I've seen maybe is affecting it is for a while now, there's been a lot of no sales at the auction, upwards of 50%. So, there's thousands of cars all over the country at these auctions that half of them aren't being sold because they're trying to get more money for them. So that's bringing less vehicles to the retail end. And then another example would be my wife. She's leasing a 2020 Volvo, and we literally been trying to get out of it. And the funny thing is, all these OEMs changed the rules with these leases, which kind of ticked me off because I always could either sell it, trade it, right, or buy it myself or walk away. And now they only leave me with I can either buy it myself or turning into a Volvo store and buy a new Volvo or a certified. That's it. I can't even go to a Volvo store and trade it in on a used car and give it back to a Volvo store. So this lease isn't up for 6 months, but my wife has been nipping at the heel to get a new car. As a matter of fact, we just bought one yesterday, a used one. And we're going to have 2 car payments for a little bit, but deal was good. And I'm afraid interest rates still going up. Go ahead and just grab the car now. And then, but I think, July, August is those summer sales-a-thons, summer sales events where a lot of new cars go out and new cars get leased. And so if the OEM's not allowing people to, my wife's used car could have came back into the market as a used car. But we can't do nothing about it.
Why do you think they did that?
Yeah, is that just Volvo?
No, all the OEMs did this where you can't trade it into another manufacturer. Now, some of them maybe not as strict, but it was the fact that they didn't have cars to give to their dealers. So they wanted to make sure they get these lease returns to then give it back to the dealers to have cars to sell. So again, I would have been happy to buy this car that this used car that because I didn't want to lease another one. Well, we typically lease or buy used, and just the way rates are and money factors are right now, leasing, there's not a lot of good leasing options right now, at least on the cars we're looking at. So figured we just buy a couple-year-old used one, and we found one at the Volvo store, but we couldn't trade it in because it wasn't a certified Volvo.
And when did that change happen?
That's stupid.
Pretty much through that shortage, so 01 range. I mean,
so you contracted a car one way, and they changed the agreement on you partway through.
Well, that's what I addressed with Volvo Financial. I said, well, hold on a second. When I signed these paperwork, I had these options. They said, yeah, but there's always the clause in there. This is Volvo's store or Volvo's car, and they have the ability to do what's best for Volvo at any given time, essentially. So what's best for Volvo is to get their car back. So even the Volvo dealer, obviously, even if I trade it into him, he can't own it. He has to give it back to Volvo, let them run it through the lane, and let other Volvo dealers buy it. See? So that's why I couldn't trade it in on a used car at the Volvo store.
Unless it was certified?
What's that? Yeah.
Unless it was certified?
Yeah. And we weren't looking at a Volvo at that store. So, So, I think that shortage, I think, has a little bit to do with the no sale rates happening at the lane. So cars are sitting there. There's a bunch of lease returns that really can't come back into the market that are getting tied up. I'm not saying that's all of it. Yeah, there's less cars, but people are holding on to them longer, 12, 13 years now, cars on the road. Mm-hmm. But I think what's going to happen, new car aging and the cars are sitting out there, and incentives are starting to come out. And I think anybody that's bought a car over the last few years might need those incentives to get out of them. And so here comes the trade-ins over the next 6 months. Especially if they have an older car, they might go to a new to upgrade.
I'm going to throw a PSA out based on your story. I wasn't aware that the captive lenders had changed the deal on leasees.
I have a family member. They had a Buick. And when he signed, this was crazy too. When he signed, I think the residual value, he could have bought it for let's say 21 grand at the end of the lease. And it was at the time when the values were really high, like they're retailing for like 30 or 35. And I'm like, dude, you got at least 10 grand of equity here. You could buy it and sell it or something, or trade it in on something else. And when he went in to do that, they said, no, your payoff was like, 30 or 35 again. It was like where he was barely breaking even or losing money. And I'm like, what? That don't make any sense. And what happened there was, again, he had to, one, take it back to a Buick GMC store, but two was when anybody who I did it on my house and my car during COVID, where you can sign off and extend miss a payment or two, and they added it to the end. A lot of people did that, and I think he did it too. And once you did that, it renegotiated the contract essentially. And so that's what happened. And so I'm like, that don't make any sense. I'm like, let me call one of my friends up or whatever. And then, like I said, come to find out, if anybody took advantage of that extend the payment thing, that was a renegotiation of the contract, and they wanted market value for that car and wasn't going to let him make the 10 grand on it. They wanted that 10 grand.
Yeah.
So
well, here's the PSA.
That's it.
Yeah.
What's the PSA, Alex?
The other lenders out there who are not captives are Ally, U.S. Bank, and Chase, and they do leases too. And a lot of the time on a lot of different cars, they smoke the captives.
That's how I got mine. Thanks, Alex. we used Alex's we used the IllumiQuote piece to find to find out which bank would give the lowest rate on leasing, and of course it was Ally. And so funny, I walked down to the Toyota dealership. I went, that truck at this payment, nothing down, roll tax and tags, and and they're like, what? They were so confused.
I should have looked into that.
But they totally did it, and they're like, man, we had no idea, because they never used one of those banks to do leasings.
Now that you said that to me, I'm so mad. I literally just bought another car for my wife last night, and we should have maybe looked at a used car lease because it's certified BMW. And
Drivers Financial is pretty good on that. It's another bank that dealers don't think they use too often.
Yeah.
I've been telling you. I'm dumb for not thinking about it. I've been telling dealers a while back they should start looking into that used car leasing programs, because it would allow people to, especially if they're paying up for these cars, to get out of it in 3 years and not being tied up.
Yeah. I wonder what shies dealerships away from it. I wonder it's just because it's just not something that that they think about, or they got in trouble with it in in years prior.
I
would just think it's just not something that dealerships and salespeople even consider.
I can give you two. One, typically the finance office wants to control what's being quoted out on the floor. So they try to keep the sales managers ignorant. So here's just the captive rates as they come out in the first day or two of the month. And at the same time, I don't think anyone's really watching how the allies, the U.S. banks, and whatnot are competing throughout the rest of the month. The rates change.
I think that's a big
day.
portion of it.
Residuals change every day with them. So.
Well, I think another part is there's a lot of dealers that even on new cars don't even know how to handle leasing. I was lucky when Ford came out with the half a car program. I got trained up really well. And our store, it's just like certified program, and leasing too. It's, we tried that and it didn't work. Well, if you tried it, of course it didn't work. You got to be committed, top down, understanding the full benefits. Even a one-pay lease is better than buying a car. Well, I drive a lot of miles, how to overcome that. So I think they have a hard time just being able to sell a lease on a new car, much less trying to figure out how to incentivize it or make it a good program on used.
Yeah, we leased my wife's last vehicle, and she does a lot of miles because she works for Ford Direct. And it still made so much sense to lease it and then pre-purchase some miles on top of it. Of course, then COVID hit, and she never even used the miles that we pre-purchased. But we did just buy it out. It did make sense for us to just go ahead and buy it out and continue on with it. But but it does, it made total sense from a financial standpoint to, lease it, pre-purchase those miles. And, when you look at the payment, the terms and everything, it's like, this is more of a no-brainer than, plus it was a hybrid. I wasn't too keen on purchasing a hybrid at the time, but it's been a solid car. We've never had any issues with it.
Man, now you got me kicking myself not thinking about that lease last night.
I'm sorry.
Nah, it'll be all right. It's just a car. It's just a payment. Try it out for 60 months.
Well, the thing is that the car's been discounted $9,000 since November. $9,000 from the original asking price in November to now. Now it's saying something the dealer still had this car since November.
How did they have that much in the car?
I know. I don't know how much they lost, but again, that's why we went ahead and did the deal, and we'll just have to have two payments for a little bit, but that's fine.
Yeah, you'll survive.
I'll drive her car. I got a big F-350 dually, and I only got a 6-mile commute to work, so I'll just take her car every once in a while.
You pull the RV with that, don't you?
Yeah, I do. That thing's a mess to try to park, though.
Oh, I bet.
So my wife and I did that for a little while. I definitely prefer my car to hers, but
swap cars. Well, we'll be getting another car here. Oh, go ahead.
No, I saw you were posting something on Facebook the other day. It was something about used car lead activity, and I guess there's a couple issues around that. You want to maybe dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, and I think last time we talked about it, but now I got some data points behind it. And what I wanted to talk about was, and I think we hit on it last time I was on the show, is CRMs are designed to manage leads based on the age of the lead, which is irrelevant to where the customer is in the buying cycle. Again, example, my wife, the lease isn't up for 6 months, but she shopped at multiple stores and went from car to car to car, different cars. So if she submitted a lead on a car and it sold, I mean, we're looking at only like 35 to 50 grand cars, but looking at Porsche Cayennes and Macans and BMWs, X4s, X6s. I mean, she was all over Jaguar F-Pace. I mean, all over the place. So if she submitted a lead on a Macan and it sold, no one would have thought to talk to her about the Jag or try to switch her or even follow up for 6 months. Because I'm like, well, we could be buying a car now if we find a good enough deal, or we'll wait 6 months and turn her keys in and buy one at that point in time, or even buy out her lease like you guys did. So anyways, the being able to follow up on leads based on the age of the lead is irrelevant to where she was in her buying cycle. I did not know where we were at when and when we would be pulling the trigger on what kind of car. So one, if you have leads on sold cars, don't be afraid to offer them an alternative, something similar in that price point. We knew we wanted that mid to compact SUV and wanted that more of a highline Porsche, Mercedes, BMW, whatever, Jag, Volvo. So you could have offered her 5 different things and she probably would have considered it, came in and looked at it. And she did at multiple stores. I had to apologize a few times. I'm like, I'm sorry. She's like a season pass at Six Flags. She's just riding everything, man. But I said, somebody takes care of her will earn her business, because she went to a store and the one girl is just getting aggravated with her. It's like, are you going to commit to something? And she literally felt uncomfortable, like she was putting this girl out. And then the other store took care of her. So guess who we bought from? But anyways, so
the people business.
Yeah, manage leads based on the lot situation and not so much the age of the lead, okay? Because you don't know where the customer is in the buying cycle. So I want to show numbers. Can I show numbers? Can I share my screen?
Sure
without?
can.
Yeah.
Okay, again, let me do this. Oh, not that one, this one. Okay. So I think you could see my screen over here. So, for example, this dealer is heavy in intermediate sport utilities by 7 units, okay? Now, if we're heavy in intermediate sport utilities and they need to get selling, well, the point that we bring up to dealers is, if you have leads on those cars, how often would you want to call and email those leads? Well, most dealers will say, well, every day, every other day. Well, if you go look at the leads, you might have a 36-day-old lead, McHenry here, Amanda McHenry, 36-day-old lead. Your CRM's probably not set up to call and email that customer every day, every other day. Okay. That's why managing leads based on the age of the lead is irrelevant to the customer's buying cycle if I have a problem on my inventory. But here's what I wanted to point out. If I'm not selling enough out of my intermediate SUVs, is it because of my pricing? And so should I just go with drop pricing, or should I follow up with this lead that hasn't been followed up in 21 days? And should I increase the contact frequency of these leads? And if I should increase the contact frequency of these leads, if you notice right here, and I know it's overrunning each other, but contacted greater than 2 days, basically 87% of these leads haven't been contacted in at least 2 days. Okay. So Is that why the sale rates dropped off? Because we lost contact with these leads, right? If that was down at 30%, we contacted 70% of these leads in the last 2 days, I guarantee the sale rate would go up, right?
Had to be something in there.
Okay, so let me, this is done by Jonathan, Jonathan Schreiber. He's my internet guy. He does these calls with dealers, and we're just starting to slice this data out. So one, I'm gonna start trending those. Can you see my screen now with the Word document, or no?
Nope, we're still looking at LotWalk.
Oh, that's weird because I got a Word document. I wonder if it won't show. Let me do this, because you have screenshots of. Let me do this.
So while you're figuring that out, I'll back you up on something. It's amazing. We light up dealerships at Frickin' Tech and do we call it a dead lead campaign, and go after all the customers who are, or all the leads that are 90 days or more.
Mm-hmm.
And
there we go.
Okay, gotcha. And it's the number that shake out and are back in wanting to talk to the dealership again because they haven't bought yet blows my mind every time. So a lot of these leads, they might get tripped into wanting to do something early, but they're not really ready yet. And you got to go 3 to 6 months with some people.
At least, yeah.
Yep.
And so, but again, if it's think about it. If I had 2 leads to choose from today, that had a call or email, would I pick the lead that still had the car in stock that I could sell them today, or do I call the lead on that Corvette that's sold and I don't have another Corvette to offer them? Well, obviously, I should work this lead. Well, if I have an issue, so if BDC people or internet people, they show up in the morning and there'll be 80 tasks to do for the day, but it's like factory work: 3-day call, 7-day email. There's no rhyme or reason to the customer's buying cycle or the issues on my lot. And so I wanted to show you some of these numbers here. So a lot of times we'll track that activity for the BDC rep, right? And you might say, hey, I want you to do 100 or 200 activities a day, calls and emails. Is that pretty normal at most stores, right?
Sounds average.
Yeah. So here's a store on the left. That's store number 1, and then a store number 2 on the right. Now, I'll tell you, the one on the left is a franchise dealer. So they're going to have new car leads, used car leads, all that. The one on the right is actually a pretty large independent dealer. Now, if you notice, this dealer on the left, these are the age of their units. They only have 2 units over 46 days old, okay, out of 140 cars, 150 cars. This dealer over here has 81 units over 60 days old. All right, so let me show you some comparisons. Now, store 1 over here versus store 2. If I looked at total activity, these are activities by rep. One rep did 217 activities. One rep did 197 activities. Over here, look at the activities by rep: 21, 21, 59. Not much activity. But here's the other kicker. What percentage of that activity was done on used cars in stock? Okay, my problems, my intermediate cars are sitting. I need to contact and email those. So if you notice, over here, 60, 78% of these activity, 79% of this person's activity had nothing to do with the used cars. Okay, 214 activities, only 46 activities that they did associated with a used car, which would be kind of alarming. But again, they got new. So what's that other activity? Could be new car leads, could be anniversary, birthday leads, survey reminder calls. They could be, service reminder calls, whatever, maybe acquisition calls, trying to buy cars. But a lot of that activity had nothing to do with my used cars. Over here, they're barely doing any activity. Well, how's this break down? If you looked at just on the left, you got store 1 and store 2. Completed activities yesterday on in-stock vehicles. They completed 350 activities on cars in stock yesterday. Remember, they only had about 150 cars in stock. This dealer, the independent, has nothing but used cars, did 57. Each of them, 220 leads, 200 leads. So pretty much the same lead count. So it wasn't that this dealer had more or less leads. It's pretty much equal. But if you look at the bottom number, this dealer on the left that only had 2 cars over 45 days old, only 12% of their active leads did not get contacted on those used cars. Over here, 64% of those active leads on used cars did not get contacted yesterday. Does that make? Do you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So,
Pretty black
I
and white.
don't. Yeah, I don't care if that rep did 300 leads or 300 activities. I mean, how many of those activities had to do with help me selling my car? How many of those activities had to do with me help get this sale rate going on these intermediate SUVs so I don't have to go drop my price, to get more leads? And so it's just weird how CRMs don't engage car activity like that, and that's just what we're just starting to figure out. There's other metrics in here that are way more important than closing percentage, response time, lead to appointment ratios, or activities per lead that a lot of internet departments track, and I have for 25 years.
Wonder who will have the first CRM out that has some of this new AI shit built into it, be able to track some of that stuff and actually give you somehow, take all that data and be able to give you an actual more accurate profile of that customer and what they're doing and what they're about to do.
Yeah,
Probably not that far away from it.
does, but they don't do anything with the vehicles in that regard.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so, I mean, you can't even really go to a lot of these CRMs and say, hey, give me my truck leads. I mean, in order to do that, you have to export all those leads, sort it by year, make, model, and just start slicing, vehicles out.
Yep.
And then you got to copy the customer's name and then go in the system to see when's the last time anybody's called or emailed them. And that's, again, what we focus on. We can do that in a click of a button. I just showed you that, and that's where we're just starting to see numbers like this. I'm like, holy cow, 87% haven't been contacted in 2 days. Maybe that's why we're not selling any. It's not have to do with pricing or photos and descriptions that our used car manager would typically focus on. Let's focus on the leads that we got.
Now, do you guys provide, or maybe you support a system, or or in your opinion, what would be the best way for dealerships from an automated standpoint to follow up with those customers?
I am personally, business-wise, would like to either create or partner up with the CRMs that have it already. But basically, a couple things. Obviously, text message. You can do a text blast to those leads and then see whoever hooks. I think one of the things we talked about in the last one about bringing it back up is, what we're finding is 60 to 80% of current active leads that a dealer is working are on cars that sold. So what are we doing? Are we switching them? Like I was talking about my wife. She submitted a lead on this Porsche. It sells. Did you even consider talking to her about the BMW? Same price point, same segment? No. So to be able to text message blast those switch leads, and we're talking hundreds, if not thousands of them that dealers have. This particular dealer I was showing you when I switched to the leads, out of the 69 intermediate SUVs this dealer has, he has 111 leads on the car still in stock. But we're showing 747 total abilities. Basically, there's 636 leads in his database of people looking for intermediate sport utilities in the similar price points at some of these. The switch leads. So he has 111 leads on the ones in stock, but he has over 600 leads. Somebody was looking, here's a 31-day-old lead that was looking at a 2020 Jeep Cherokee that's sold. Can we show him this 2021 Jeep Cherokee that's in this bucket? Okay. So that's a lot of work to do, right?
I was going to say, someone needs to get to work.
Yeah. But yeah, if you could broadcast email that data set of 600 and say, hey, that car sold, would you be interested in this? Hit Y for yes, I'll get you more information. And then the people that do that, you can maybe trigger into phone calls or videos or photo links or something.
Every time you come on, Jason, you give me another idea.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here you're paying a lot for these leads, and a high the better we got dealers with used car inventory management. I thought their used car closing percentage would go up, but it actually went down, because instead of getting 1 or 2 leads on a car and the car sells, they're getting 4, 5, 6 leads on a car and it sells. So they had a high percentage of leads that I couldn't sell anything to. So the closing percentage dropped. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. But I go, aha. Well, instead of 1 or 2 leads, you get 2 leads, car sells, you got 1 lead left. Yep. This guy has 5 leads, the car sells, he's got 4 leads left. And that you're not closing those unless you try to switch them.
Yeah. And most salespeople are just going to mark them inactive, no longer in market, whatever it may be, rather than taking the opportunity to see if you can switch them.
So the 2 things that I'm
trying to, you should start trying to switch them right out of the gate.
Oh yeah, too.
Present multiple options immediately.
Yeah, and we provide that. We'll say, hey, this, you got this car in stock, and there's 4 others you can talk to them about. But and what we're doing is segments. So like compact SUV, and if let's say it's the compact SUV they're interested in is $25,000. What we're doing is 2,500 below, 2,500 ahead. So do you have any other compact SUVs, 22.5 to 27.5 to talk to them about? But the 2 things I'm trying to figure out, and one I'm really worried about is, one, I can go in and say, and you can do this in your CRM and say, give me all my leads that I haven't contacted in 3 days. Okay, I can do that. How about give me all my cars that I have in stock that I haven't contacted leads in 3 days. I can't do that on the car end. And so we're trying to figure that out. And what I mean by that is I can look at the leads on these cars and figure out which leads I haven't contacted in 3 days, but what cars do I have in stock that we have leads on that we haven't contacted? Here's the math that we have to figure out, though, is if this car has 5 leads and one of those leads were contacted yesterday, will that car be on the list? Because that car got worked yesterday, but only 1 lead did, not the other 4.
I see what you're saying.
See what I'm saying? So I'm going, okay, if it's got 5 leads and 3 of them haven't been contacted, does that car come up on the list even though 3 have been worked? Because I think if I expose those cars and say, hey, here are the cars that haven't been contacted 3 days, pretty much their whole inventory might be there, because I'm sure a lot of – so we got to figure that out. But the other thing I'm trying to figure out is my worry situation, and I want to catch – this is what I think I want to catch. Imagine a 30-day-old car, and I bring up a 30 because it's not fresh and it's not aged, so it's really not on anybody's major radar, because if it's fresh, I got to get a photo price, get it online. If it's aged, I got to blow it out. So this little sleeper car sitting at 30 days old, and imagine that car has 20 and 30-day-old leads, okay? So a 20-day-old lead we're not worried about either because it's not fresh. Right. And we haven't. So I guarantee you there's a database of cars that are just kind of off the radar with leads on them that are off the radar. And those are the ones I think that we got to go, boom, here's what you got to focus on today. Here's the cars. So again, we're just, as we're integrating leads with cars, it's those type of metrics and those type of approaches, both to lead management and inventory management, that no one's doing right now. And it's kind of exciting to play around with this stuff.
Yeah, I every time you're on, my head's thinking, all right, here's how you build the software to solve that. And where my head keeps going back to web control, and just the buckets and like
AVV web control,
right? Just bucket it up by vehicles, and yep.
Yeah, you could do that, couldn't you?
Yeah, that's one way.
SUV bucket, but then you got pricing bucket. I mean, so one of the things we'll address is like, if you're not selling enough out of your 31 to 45H bucket, isolate the cars.
You could build a widget that would insert into an HTML email that would have, and this, would have multiple vehicles, and the software could actually just do that really easily. Anyway,
again, and I'll share that here. I mean, you can see my screen, right? Well, that's what we do. I mean, if you're not selling enough out of your 31 to 45H bucket, here are the cars, and then the click of a button, here are the leads. If I got no leads on a 37-day Sonata, no leads, but there's 16 switch opportunities. There's 16 leads right here that were on a similar car. They're looking in a $19,000 car where they switched to this. So for the inventory manager, don't drop the price, call these switch leads. As the internet person, to your point, I can, here's this maybe van here, this Pacifica, the car's still in stock. I can talk to them about that one, but I also have 2 other vans in stock I can talk to them about. Or if they happen to be on a car that's sold, we can switch them from one car to the next. A Kia Optima, this 40-day-old car, a lead wanted a Kia Optima. Will he switch to this Altima? Oh, by the way, I got 5 other vehicles to talk to them about too. So is that what you're thinking about?
Something like that, but bringing the actual leads in and making it actionable right there.
Yeah, so one of the things I did on purpose is I didn't bring the customer phone number or email address into the system. I didn't want to be a threat to a CRM. I want to be able to work with, I just want to point out the problems. So I didn't pull that in plus Privacy Act stuff. I didn't, now that just copy some, you can click on the customer name and we can hyperlink to that lead provider like Vin Solutions if you use them. But if it's like eLeads, copy the customer name, pull them up and just call or email them and ask them about this. So yeah, we make it, I wouldn't say make it cumbersome. I mean, obviously you got another step you got to do. And the reason why I say I wouldn't make it cumbersome is because you can't do that kind of stuff in the CRM,
Yeah.
So to me, I'm making it a lot easier. I'm giving you the low hanging fruit leads to work today, especially to attack my issues. Like I said, I think a lot of this, we're going to trend out some of those metrics. We're going to be able to see, the reason why my sale rate dropped on my large pickup trucks is because the amount of leads not being contacted went up, and see if there's a correlation between, activity and sale rates. Because the more and more I look at this, it's not typically a pricing problem. It's a process problem and a people problem. And it could be marketing. If I don't have a lead on that Sonata or whatever it was, and I don't have many switch opportunities, I need to market that thing. But that goes back to the other part. And then people like, well, what kind of marketing? How many leads should I have per car? Should I be on AutoTraderCars.com, Car Gurus, and these other listing sites? And the switch leads, I think, are huge because the dealer, imagine having a 2-day-old car. I'm typically going to price it a little high because it's fresh. I don't have photos yet. So, of course, I'm not getting any leads. So, but what if one dealer has 2 switch opportunities? They're active leads on sold cars that are similar to this 2-day-old car that you can call right now. You don't need the photos, versus that dealer that has 20 switch opportunities. So the dealer that has 2 on a 2-day-old car versus the dealer that has 20 on a 2-day-old car, he's got a bigger opportunity, the dealer with 20, to put somebody on this 2-day-old car right out the gate. So you're going to want as many leads as possible. But then if you're getting in too many leads, then then you got to hire more people and you got to do all this. But yes and no, if you just handle the leads that you need to handle and contact the ones you need to versus the one you don't. If you can weed out the bad stuff and work the good. But to your point, can you automate some of this? I don't know.
I see a way, but
the
question is,
I can create
who can pull it off, right?
I don't know if I'd call it a CRM. What would you call it? It's more of a lot RM.
Right. The last time you were on, we were talking about managing the leads by inventory. This is just putting more reason to do it that way. I see the problem with the current CRMs, and I get really geeky here for a minute, but it's all in object models. So the core of software is how each data point works with one another. So for instance, a customer object model is going to have, some sort of customer thing, usually an ID, and then it's got a phone number that hangs off of it, an email that hangs off it. It might have a co-buyer that hangs off of it. And CRMs are all built around this customer. Yeah. For example, whereas like a DMS has different silos and it might operate differently. So you'll have one that's built around a repair order, another one that's built around a sale transaction, closed deal, that kind of thing. So anyway, I said I'm getting a little geeky, but it's really a matter of, is the inventory itself a bolt-on top of this customer system? And if it is, then it's going to be really damn hard to try and splice the inventory and connect it to the lead and connect it to the customer and all this kind of stuff. It's quite a challenge. You would have to, probably the best way to do it would be to build it from the ground up. And so it'd be really hard for an e-lead or Vin Solutions or somebody to pull it off, or even a Drive Centric, who's the newest player.
You got Techion coming in.
Techion's, they've already set their foundations. If they didn't have this in mind from the get-go, that's going to be really hard to pull off.
Yeah. So you're saying I'm onto something?
I think you're definitely onto something.
Well, and again, it's 25 years in the making.
We raise a little capital, maybe we can put something together, Jason.
There we go.
Your software has come a long way, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the thing, my first 7 years, this has been 9 years that I've started this company. And the first 7 years is this Google Sheets, raw data, dumping it once a week. And it's only been 2 years since the software, and only about a year that we started throwing in this lead data stuff. And that's where we're just starting to slice and dice this. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much here that we need to be looking at that we're not. And it's funny. What comes first? I asked the dealer, we do a university here, and I was looking out in a parking lot here, and I said, act like this is your lot. What comes first, the car or the customer? Right? Obviously, if you have a customer out there, you're going to meet and greet them. But when it comes to your strategies, your approach, your energy, do you got to focus on the cars and making sure they're priced and photo, or do you got to focus on the customer? I don't think you can weight one heavier than the other. And again, on the physical showroom floor and the physical dealership, we don't. We meet and greet the customer. We straighten out the car. We fill the holes. But on our virtual lot, we got a used car manager over here and an inventory tool, thinking that's the most important thing. And then we got a CRM over here in BDC department that doesn't talk cars, and they think that's the most important thing. And they're putting their, but none of these are putting the energy together and working what they do, cars and customer every day. And we've had virtual, or your virtual dealership, your virtual lot, for 25 years. And that's, again, it's kind of weird. And I say weird because how has this not been put together before? And so I'm in this uncharted territory, which is fine, because it's fun to be able to, innovate and see and not be stuck into some narrow mindset of how it's always been done. But it's
hard
also,
to believe someone hasn't figured it out.
Well, but also too, it's hard. One, as a company, marketing wise, no one knows why or what we do or how we do it. It's one thing you talked about our booth at NADA. People show up at NADA and say, "Hey, I want to look at a new website company or a new inventory tool or a new whatever marketing company." They don't know to come look for us, because we're not in any of those segments. But two, a lot of it's kind of, some people might think it's fluff or maybe over their head, like, you're getting a little too deep here. But I'm like, no, this is basic stuff. You got your trucks aren't selling. You got leads on trucks. Let's call and email the leads. It's pretty.
It's complicated.
Yeah. He's complicating things. Just pick up the phone and make some calls. All right. So yeah, that's the hard part too.
We're also coming off of 2 years of customers walking in and saying, "Hey, you got a car? Look, I see you can sell me a car right now. I'll pay anything you want for it." So, we're going to have to get past that now.
Can I give you a story?
Yeah, they haven't
shared it on Facebook.
Dealerships haven't.
What?
I was just going to say, salespeople haven't had to worry about switch cars.
No,
they didn't have a switch car. And even if they did, most people had already narrowed it down because of, doing all the research, or at least thinking that they're doing all the research. So salespeople just got, I don't want to say lazy, but just become accustomed to it.
Let me give you this example. Now, when I was backed up, you could probably see I've got Kansas City Chiefs stuff back here. So I'm in Olathe, Kansas. And I shared this story on Facebook. Yeah, there's Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes. So anyways, couple weekends ago, my wife's looking for a car. I was telling you guys that earlier. Her lease is up. And it was a Saturday morning. It was a playoff game. The Chiefs were playing, and it was Buffalo, right? It was a Saturday game, but it wasn't until 3:30. literally in the morning, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, I'm on my phone on the couch. My wife's sitting in the chair on her phone, and we're texting cars back. Hey, look at this car. Look at this car. Look at this car. Well, we're having family over for the game at 3:30, but we're picking up food at 3. It got to be about 1 o'clock, and my wife goes, hey, do you want to go maybe test drive that one car? It was a Porsche Macan or whatever it was at an Audi or Volvo store here locally. And it's only 20 minutes away. I said, you know what? I think I can get ready in 15 minutes. Can you? She's like, yeah. I'm like, she goes, you think we got enough time? I'm like, yeah, we'll be there by 1:30. We'll drive it. We'll be back by 2:30, go pick up the food. Bop, bop, bop. So she says, hey, before we leave, let's call the dealership, make sure the car was there. Well, we call, and operator answers, hold on a second, let me transfer it. I ask about this car, and the guy's like, yeah, and it must have been a manager. Well, here, matter of fact, let me add this. He said, are you calling from St. Louis? Because my cell phone number is still from my St. Louis number. And I said, no, I'm in Olathe, Kansas. He said, oh, you're nearby. He goes, yeah, hold on, that car's here, and let me get you somebody. So then he pushes me off to a salesperson. So long story short, which is too late, the salesperson goes, oh, yeah, that car's still here, but we might be closing early. I'm like, oh, okay. He goes, yeah, we might be closing around 3, for the big game. And I'm like, yeah, okay. He goes, but, if you want to, maybe if that don't work, you can come by Monday and look at, and I'm like, okay. And I had it on speakerphone this whole time. My wife's like, huh? And I'm like, all right, well, thanks, bye. And I'm like, did I just hear, did that just happen? And I'm looking at my phone, I'm looking at her, I'm like, holy cow. We're jumping through hoops trying to figure out how we can get up there and get it back fast enough. And he just broomed us. And I brought up the fact he asked for my phone. They evidently have caller ID. I mean, why wouldn't they have at least called me on Monday and say, hey, was that you that tried to call? Or they just, and to the point where they just think customers are coming in and stumbling over these vehicles, and they don't have to sell anymore. It's like, well, and I don't mind them, I've even said, I posted it on Facebook, and I got about 150 different replies of people saying, well, good for that dealer. They should have, let the employees have fun. And other people chimed in and said, no, they should have stayed open and made a big event and had customers there to watch the game and blah, blah, blah. And I know it would have been a different conversation if I said, hey, that's fine. I'm in a hurry myself. I got to get home for the game myself. And maybe he would have been fine. Come on in. But why do I got to drag that out of me? Why wouldn't he have done it? Or if anything, saying, hey, if that doesn't work, let me bring the car to you on Monday. You're in Olathe. And they had my number. They knew I was, why not? And that's just that, to my point. That story is this, man, it seems like I went up there. I was sitting there thinking, man, they must be having record months still. These cars must be just flying off their shelves. To be able to do that.
Did he even ask for your contact information?
That's the thing. No, I didn't ask for my name or nothing. Now, obviously, they had my phone number because, again, he said, oh, you from, but nothing on my name. Didn't ask, hey, can I follow up with you? Can I bring it to your office? Or, you guys, something. I mean, nothing. So,
wow.
I don't know.
Go,
yeah.
folks.
So again,
when you answer the phone, you never know if it's going to be Jasen Rice. He's going to be talking about it on air.
Well, that's the other thing. I hate bringing up my past. It's even at this dealership. I don't want nobody to know who I am, essentially. But
yeah, I try to shop that way too, and don't tell them I'm in the business.
Yeah, I know.
I
hate it when
you hear those people. People would call when I was selling cars and whatnot. They're like, yeah, I'm in the business. I know what your invoice is. I know what you're
They're
doing.
the worst ones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's yeah. Okay.
Oh, great. Got Mr. Know-It-All coming in.
Yep.
I try not to say anything. And then, of course, when you go on the test drive, the salesman, so what do you do for a living? Don't ask him. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Work at McDonald's.
Well, the other thing I hate too is I don't like, and not that it's a big deal. I guess I'm a private person, but I always try to do financing on myself, on my own through my bank or something, because I don't want to go in a dealership and they have, what I pay myself and, our credit and everything else. And not that I got anything to hide, but it's like, that's pretty private stuff. And I end up doing business with you. I really don't want you to know. So not only am I going to beat you up on price, but I'm also going to sell my trade myself, and I'm not going to bring any F&I. So you don't want me in your dealership, basically.
Unless you're leasing.
You're the worst customer.
Now, but see, no, I bought warranty and gap. But this, my wife's car, my son, same thing. I'm like, hey, I know. I don't know what warranty costs. I don't know how much money you're making on me, but it seems reasonable. Just I'll take the deal. I know I'll get a good deal on the car, and you got to make some money somewhere else, so that's fine.
Yep.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. I have heard stories about vendors buying from dealerships, like the CEO of the company or something, and then them using that as a negotiation tactic against the vendor later.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, like I said, I was on the phone with my bank for a little bit. I did do financing there at the dealership, but yeah, I typically don't like doing that stuff. They weren't a client, so I was just like, whatever. Like I said, I'll not hide. It's not like that, but
We were, I've always wanted to do this, like as a business owner, and like we do give our employees the day off if they're buying a car, especially from one of our clients. And I've always wanted to be able to say, hey, look, if you give our employee a good deal, we will pay this difference and just give you this money. I've always wanted to do that. It's a tough one to pull off, but
I kind of did that. Again, my wife's lease, she always wanted an XC90. And so we had a dealership out of state, and I called him up, and I said, hey, my wife wants this lease, but she don't want a crazy payment. And I said, how much down to get it to this payment? And it was like, whatever, $5,000. So I said, hey, you want to barter? So I'll give you services for that down payment. So we don't have to come up with cash, just ship me the car and we'll just do this. And so we did do a little bartering there with that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's just that though was a little bit harder to do because out of state lease is a little bit trickier. But
Yeah.
no, I didn't think about giving them a day off to buy a car, especially from the client. Because we're there for 4 hours after I left work early and it was a long day.
It's mighty nice of you, Alex.
Yeah, man, you gotta help the economy.
You hiring?
Jason, what do you see?
I am actually.
Jason, what are you seeing on the marketplace front?
Well, what's weird is shopper activity is low. So last year, tax season was about 15 to 20% lower than the previous tax season. Everybody thinks this tax season will get them out of their winter hangover of sales and stuff. Well, last year, everybody kind of got, and we seen the patterns November, December. I was already worried about it. And then, but everybody was talking about how there's going to be a big tax return. People are going to get extra money, and it's going to be a boom. And it just didn't happen. So the problem with that is we're down about 5 to 10%, meaning shopper activity. Not we, as the shopper activity is down another 5 to 10% than what it was last year. And so I don't think this tax season is going to pan out as well because, again, interest rates are higher. I paid a stupid interest rate that would have been 2 or 3% less, I think, if we bought it a couple of years ago, a year or so ago. But interest rates are higher. The car values are still high. I think customers are sick of paying for it. 2, if they need to get out of cars, new cars are sitting there. They're going to throw in the rebates to get new cars in, so then trade-ins come in. So what's funny is right now wholesale's high, or wholesale is going up. So dealers are paying more for cars, but the retail market's not there. Like I said, this car that we just bought yesterday, literally signed the paperwork last night, was $9,000 discount from November. And I on my Facebook, if anybody goes on there and looks, I don't know, about a week ago, I gave it like 8 screenshots of F-150s to Hondas to Porsche to, a mixture of a Maxima. These cars were discounted anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000 since November. And so the retail prices are getting lower, but wholesale's higher. And so that spread is very thin right now of profitability. And the only way that if I have to go to the lane and pay up and assuming I can charge up and make my gap and profit, the only way I can do that is I got to wait for these cheap cars to leave the market. And by the time those cheap cars leave the market, I'm aged and I got to drop my price. And so the car I'm buying today, hoping for tax season, will be aged by April 15th. Yeah, it'll be the age car when tax season's over. It really starts slowing down the first week of April. You only got about a 45, 60-day window between now and April 15th, really, to get some of these cars moving.
This tax season, though, you're not having to pay back those credits that were pulled forward. So it might be a normal tax season for most people again.
Yeah, I don't know, but last year was supposed to be the highest in returns, and it ended up only being about $200 to $400 higher on average of a return people were getting, and that got ate up by inflation. People were paying way more money for stuff, and electric bill gone up, gas bill's gone up, gas was high, so the extra few $100 they had in their tax return just had to cover their spread on the household expenses, and I think that's why the tax season wasn't there. And inflation really it's gone down a bit, but it's still pretty high. And there was I shared two headlines. There was two headlines too where they said that the job market was really strong. It's the best that it's been. Unemployment's low as it's been. But then the next headline, there's over $1 trillion in credit card debt. And I'm like, well, maybe these two headlines go together. Maybe people are going back to work. The spouse has to go back to work, or the kids are going back to work because parents can't afford their the kids' cell phone payment anymore. I mean, I think more people are pushed to the job market because now they have to start paying these bills. So job market looking strong. Don't think that makes a strong economy if people are $1 trillion in credit card debt and paid $5,000 high on cars that 10 grand higher on cars over the last few years too. So I think it's going to be this next 6 months will make or break this industry as far as where we're headed. I think again by May or June, wholesale starts bottoming. The values of cars start really bottoming out. I say May or June because
sign in Q2 for sure.
Yeah, because I say May or June because dealers don't react typically till it's painful, and so they'll see the writing on the wall by mid-April and beginning of May, and then it starts getting painful at the end of May and June. Where they're going to have to start dumping cars or slashing prices to get things moving, and that's where I think the values really start going down. I'm speculating, but that's just kind of the way I've seen things over the years of tracking it.
No, we're thinking the same. That's Q2 is when a lot of realizations are going to be fully made.
Yeah, I think this tax season it'll give you a push. We're going to get busy, and it's going to feel good, and it's going to make it kind of the pain go away for a little bit. But again, it's short lived, and the car you're buying now, if you don't move it in that time, you could be hurting in May or June when it's aged. So that's
solid advice.
Yeah, it's such an upbeat thing to end on.
Yeah, we got a new car. We should be excited about that. I told my wife that. I'm like, that's what's bad about being in the car business. You get these new cars, and it's not that exciting anymore. But,
no big deal.
Yeah.
Well, it's so exciting when it's your wife's car.
I don't even get to drive it. No, but I think here again, I guess to wrap that up too, I think, again, looking at leads, one easy for dealers to do is don't give up on any leads on sold cars. Don't give up on leads after 30 to 40 days. Keep pushing through those leads. We do a lot of tracking on an appointment log. Again, this isn't something that CRMs do. We'll manually track the date we got the lead, the date we contacted the customer, the date of their appointment. Okay. And we'll spread that out, and that way we can track between the date of getting the lead and the date that the customer showed up for the appointment. And then how many appointments we have 0 to 7 days old, each weekly age bucket. And what we found was, obviously, if I can drag my average age to appointment higher, that's a good thing. We think it might be bad. If you go from a 2-day lead to appointment average to a 5-day lead to appointment average, that's actually good because that means you're following up on 30, 40, 50-day leads and you're getting them in the door. Then what we found was these older leads, these 30-day and higher older appointments, those show up at a higher percentage than the fresh leads. It was like 95%, which is like 80-something percent or 70-something percent. Well, a lot of the fresh leads are just starting their shopping, so they're not in a hurry.
True.
I'll stop by. By the time they're 30, 40, 50 days old, and you've been following, they've done enough research, they're ready to pull the trigger. So they're higher appointment ratios showing because of that. So don't give up on the age of leads. Don't give up on the lead if it's sold. Try to give them an alternative. And And again, we'll have more data on the tracking, but I think I was jokingly saying at events, I was saying, hey, imagine your person did 100 activities and only 20 of them were cars in stock. The other 80% of their activity had nothing to do with your inventory. I was joking with that number. It's almost a reality.
You are almost right there.
I was like, gosh, dang it. So make sure the activity is good activity.
Well, that's the way to end it on solid advice.
Yep.
All right.
Jason, you're always full of it. The solid advice, that is.
Always appreciate it. And
you talk to my wife again?
Not that you need to plug anything, but go ahead and give yourself an opportunity to plug. If anyone wants to reach out to you, check out lotpop.com. And
LotPop, our new lot walk tool. We're put the two together, and follow me. It's JASEN. So Facebook, LinkedIn, and I try once a week. YouTube, LotPop Inc. Or we do podcasts. It's called Lot Party Show podcast. About once a week, I throw out some tips on what we're seeing going on.
Definitely give it a follow.
For sure. Well, thank you, Jason.
Yep.
Everyone,
guys, have a great weekend. Take care.
Go Chiefs.